Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We have a jam-packed show for you this morning. We will be speaking with Senator Nina Turner at around 8:45 about her race there in Ohio. We're also going to be joined, as always, on Wednesdays by our sister from another Mr. Nomiki Konst. She's going to be joining us for Solidarity Wednesdays momentarily. But first, as we start with every episode rooted in Black history, hey, Google, what happened today in Black history?
Paul Laurence Dunbar was the first Black poet to gain a national reputation in the United States. He was also the first to use the Black dialect within the formal structure of his work. In 1896, Dunbar's Lyrics of a Lowly Life was the single piece of work that established and solidified his reputation as a poet. On February 9, 1906, Paul Laurence Dunbar passed away. Adapted from Black Heritage Day calendar by author, lecturer, and civil rights activist Dr. Karl Mack.
He is doing his fatherly duties, but he has provided us with this historical account of all the different just things that you don't learn in school. And certainly during this period of America making us afraid of critical race theory, I am definitely excited to have Black Heritage Days. It's blackheritagedays.com, where you can get that calendar. And every single day, my family, we center our homeschooling around what is in that calendar, because we see every aspect of human life has been impacted and touched and, in fact, blessed by Black people. So a good morning to Dr. Mack, even though he's not here this morning. I want to start very briefly with some updates on COVID-19. John Hopkins COVID data as of February 8th, yesterday. Effective February 2nd, however, hospitals are no longer required to report COVID deaths at facilities to the Department of Health and Human Services. These numbers don't include people who die in nursing homes, who die at their own home, or other places. The CDC will continue collecting death counts and it is getting its data from death certificates directly. Now, multiple states planning an end of mask mandates in the midst of what is still a pandemic. And it is being pushed by, honestly, more than just Republicans and anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers. We're now seeing some people who previously stood by mask mandates and stood by vaccine mandates now backing off. And I want to discuss that a little bit more throughout the day. But the data is clear. As of February 8th, there have been 398 million cases of COVID-19 across the globe, 5.75 million deaths across the globe. In the United States alone, 77 million cases, 348,000 new cases. And as of yesterday, 907,000 deaths. There were 2,739 new COVID-19 deaths, and that is with the limited reporting. I just want to encourage everyone to take your own precautions. I don't really care what the TV is saying at this point. I mean, there's just so much misinformation out there everywhere. All I know is that people are still dying. 2,700, in fact, passed away on a single day. That said, I want to shift gears and bring in Nomiki Konst. She is a friend of the show. Every Wednesday, we talk about solidarity, how allies should be working together across issues. And while every ally does not have the same priority list, all of us should find a way to work together for our common cause. Good morning, Nomiki. How are you this morning?
I am wonderful. How are you, Ben?
I am great. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And later on today, I will be with you over there on your channel. I want to start honestly with COVID because, you know, it's almost as if we're living in a movie and the plot line is a 2-bit on the nose. And the people who are in charge, I feel like, are somewhat the antagonist of our story because, well, they're certainly not making this pandemic go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, what's so odd about this move? Governor Kathy Hochul in New York announced that she's going to be lifting the mask mandates when she's been in office for 5 months since Governor Cuomo was forced to step down. She really was aggressive, and it was quite refreshing to see how she really championed safety in COVID. She instilled the mask mandates when the rates were pretty low again. As we were hearing about Delta in Europe, she put those mask mandates in before pretty much anybody else did. And of course, same thing with Omicron. Now, there's vaccine mandates where you have to be vaccinated at least 2 times before you eat inside in New York. So there are other provisions, but I think what's just so bizarre about this is it happens so rapidly. I understand that the rates are going down significantly. And, for the most part, from what we understand, the people who are being hospitalized and who are dying are those who refuse to get vaccinated. So I'm wondering if there's just this executive decision at this point to say, or if there's some sort of data science that says there's a point where you just can't convince certain people to be vaccinated when they're refusing at this point in the pandemic. And I understand that she doesn't want to force vaccination, but they're going to do all they can to, if it's not a mask mandate and you're vaccinated, then you have to be vaccinated to be inside. I hope that's what it is, but that, for the Democratic side. But what can we say at this point?
What can we say? Honestly, that's the thing is how do we interpret this at this point? Because while reports are saying that the rates are going down, I also know the data is getting bad. The data is bad. Mm-hmm. Death is probably our most accurate data at this point, and even that is not being reported at the same levels as previous. There's bipartisanship here, right? Yes. I think the bipartisanship that the other side of this equation is that, well, they've been trying to force us to just live life as normal, in hopes of not damaging the economy. And we see this week and last week, people reporting that the economy is doing great despite COVID. And I'm like, how do you finish that sentence when people are not doing great in spite of COVID?
Exactly. I mean, this is the commentary. If you travel around the world, or if you watch any sort of, it's very easy. You can do it on YouTube nowadays, watch news in other countries, even turn on the BBC. The way that the rest of the world reports on this pandemic is so different. And of course, response to this pandemic than how we do. And the fundamental difference is we are a country that is ruled by capitalism. It's not that capitalism doesn't exist in the EU, but we are ruled at our roots by capitalism. Yep. And so I think we interpret everything is through the lens of capitalism. I mean, I know this isn't a shocker, but the pandemic is, I think, the clearest, it's the clearest show of our capitalist roots. I think the thing that really is bizarre to me is the CDC. I don't understand why the Biden administration, even if they did this, decided not to report on deaths, why are they publicizing it? That's what's weird to me, because no one with half a brain is like, why? That's like saying we're no longer going to report, hurricanes the way that the Trump administration was cutting the EPA budget. Why would you do that? It's not for budgetary reasons. Yeah, it's truly bizarre.
I think it really feels like, if I were to be honest with you, it feels like manufacturing consent. I think they have. I agree with you. I think they've given up on the people who refuse to get vaccinated. But here's the thing. The hardening of the American people around their refusal to get vaccinated is not just a natural outgrowth of a person sitting at home. It's the natural outgrowth of constant propaganda. It's a natural outgrowth of listening to Fox News, listening to Tucker Carlson, listening to Joe Rogan, quite frankly, listening to all of these outlets that all day, every day, over the entirety of the pandemic, they have been attacking the vaccine. And so for me, it's almost as if America, the structure, the institutions, did not put up a fight against this anti-vax, anti-mask movement. It just surrendered and say, well, hell, if they die, they die.
Absolutely right. And it's bizarre because, of course, there's a correlation between a strong correlation between the anti-vax movement. And there are obviously some people on the edge of that are not conservative for other reasons. But the core of that movement is a reflection of the Trump base, is overlaps with the insurrectionist base. Of course, it's not all of it, but that is where the propaganda is coming from, and they want to grow that movement. So you'd think, okay, well, if the Democrats who are in power right now, don't want to fight for capitalist reasons, they can at least go after the propaganda in some ways or call it out. And, and I know we've done this before and I know it's being overplayed, but I just want to keep reiterating. Thank God for Neil Young, because it's not just that he said he was pulling from Spotify. It's that he framed it from capitalism and said, the workers of Spotify, if you are uncomfortable, you don't have to be there. Obviously it's hard to find work and he's acknowledging that, but he used the power of his capital against Spotify's capital, because Spotify is making a decision, we hope at least, based on capitalism. I say we hope because I hope that they're not really, trying to spread propaganda for some sort of right-wing, reason. But I think that they're making a decision based on capitalism. And he's like, all right, well, two can play that game. And I think we organizers, and we do get it because, there are people organizing at Starbucks and at Amazon and all over the country in different workplaces. But we have to also use our power through capitalism, because that's the only thing many of these people respond to. And so, it's really sad to see that the Democrats are not more concerned with propaganda, because they're going to have an electoral issue, in a few months. But we still have the power, because we shouldn't rely on these institutions and Joe Biden to solve our problems right now.
That's right. At this juncture, I think the government has made it clear that they have abdicated all responsibility to the care of the American people. So we'd be foolish to continue to look at this government for help. I want to move on to as much as I have problems with Joe Biden in this moment, I have to play this next clip so people can clearly understand that there is nothing in this country quite like the threat of the Republican Party. And I don't even like the Democrats like that. So for me to say a sentence like that, you got to know what's coming. It's really, really effed up. Here's a clip out of South Florida, my stomping ground. And there is a campaign that already occurred in South Florida, where Republican operatives were going door to door, changing the voter affiliation of elderly people from Democrat to Republican, so that those people would have a problem voting when it was a time for them to vote. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Nicole, we do know that Miami-Dade prosecutors are now looking into some of the cases. The governor weighed in today. One of those seniors, all lifelong Democrats, her name's Maria. She lives in this place. Thanks to her, we get our very first look at least one of the people who were knocking on the doors. Maria took photos of the woman at her door last summer, said she was updating voter registrations. The ID had her name, worker number 56, and a QR code that connects to the Republican Party of Florida website. Maria's story matches the others we've collected.
Came to my door and they asked if I was interested in voting.
Armando, Ernesto, Juan.
And then sent me to the Republican Party.
That's Maria with the ID she had on the left, a Democrat since she registered in 1996, 25 years, until that visit and the new card she received last September on the right made her Republican.
Nosotros estamos de las noticias de Local 10.
This is the home address listed for that Republican Party of Florida's voter registration worker, Maria Barrick.
Yo no voy a salir, eso es mentira, okay?
After saying she wasn't coming out because it's a lie, someone inside made a phone call on speaker. The advice? Don't talk to them. But then Barrick's daughter gave us a name of an organizer to call.
She's the only person who got everybody involved in this situation, involved in thinking in this situation. She worked directly with the company. And my mom is not speaking with nobody without an attorney present.
While we trace that company and who's paying that bill, the Republican Party of Florida director on Friday emailed that its operation follows all laws and regulations. Florida's leading Republican, the governor, in Miami today, said a proposed elections integrity unit would investigate.
We're going to have a specified group of investigators and law enforcement that will go after those types of election shenanigans.
That is the local station down there in South Florida. And I just want to give them a shout out for that reporting. No, Miki, these people they're evil and they have no regard for democracy at all. What are your thoughts?
I love how Governor DeSantis is like, we're going to create a special commission of people that I picked to oversee this and investigate it. And oh, by the way, while we were investigating it, we found voter fraud on the Democratic side, because that's how they're going to spin this. I mean, you're not going to see this on Fox News. All day long, they talk about how they found, one person who sent a mail-in ballot before they died, which was before the election. And like, that's voter fraud on the Democratic side. But then they're these kinds of Roger Stone tactics. I mean, this is classic Roy Cohn-esque politics. I mean, this is the dirty tricks that the Republican Party is known for. I don't know if they're breaking the law. They might have found some sort of loophole here.
That's
but,
right.
Actually, it seems like they might be breaking the law, because you're not allowed to mislead people. That's a contract. That's right. I mean, that's essentially you're signing that. So exactly. I am curious how they're going to be able to go through those voter rolls and figure this out. And I also am wondering, obviously it's always very close in Florida, especially Southern Florida, but I'm curious if, and I know this is not the easiest thing to say, but I'm wondering if the numbers of registrations have gone down for Republicans because of COVID, if there have been more deaths on the Republican side because of their politics of refusing to wear masks. And, Florida's been a lawless state pretty much since the beginning of the pandemic. So
that's right.
It's always close. So I imagine it has in some way.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it. There was a study that showed that there's a statistically significant difference between you dying in this pandemic if you are a Republican or a Democrat. I want to say a statistically significant difference, which means there's a measurable outcome based in scientific data that if you are a supporter and what it is, Nomi, is that they have this hermetically sealed propaganda bubble over there. And I never really thought that bubble would be so tight that they would die. They would be willing to die for their propaganda. And so I think your theory might be right. Maybe they have wiped themselves out so much in South Florida as it pertains to COVID-19 and the elderly population of Republicans that they have to go door to door. And then I would go one step further. I don't even think they would care. I think that they would do this anyway, because they don't see democracy as an actual institution that's to be respected. They see democracy as something that needs to be overthrown.
And you know what? I for any good Democrats who are watching this, who are involved in any campaigns, I'm not even leaning on the Democratic Party or the DCCC or any big consultants anymore. I urge you to use footage like this in your campaign ads. If you're running against a Republican, hell, if you're running against a centrist, use this type of footage and say, this is what we're up against. Use the photo of the insurrectionists, because the RNC has officially attached themselves to them now. So now it's your opportunity to use that, because let me tell you, Mitch McConnell's calling it out. There are a lot of Republicans in this country. I would say it's hard to say that, but most Republicans in this country are not insurrectionist types. I mean, I have family members like that. I think that's partly how Joe Biden won, is with folks who just couldn't stay on the, there were folks who were willing to vote for Trump because they wanted the tax benefits. And then there are folks who just said, it's too much. It's too much. I'm going to be fine otherwise. Joe Biden's not, too far left, so it's not too much for me to do. So use this footage when you run, because I really think that if we do keep any seats, it is because the Republican Party is going so far. It has nothing to do with the Democratic Party. Absolutely.
It's not because Democrats are doing anything necessarily good. I have a long laundry list of that, and we'll be talking about that with Rebecca Azor during Like It or Not. And coming up here in a few minutes, we'll be talking with Georgia Ford about the ongoing protests in the police murder of Amir Locke in Minnesota. We'll be discussing that. I want to shift one more gear before we get to those stories, Nomi, and take you to Steve Bannon. I know that you watch and you analyze his work a lot, and I think it's meaningful. Steve Bannon, of course, is a former senior advisor to Donald Trump, and quite frankly, one of the leading voices in this global right-wing fascist movement. He had a meltdown. This is a couple days old, but I wanted to share with you. He had a meltdown in response to Vice President Mike Pence. When Mike Pence finally said something good, right? A broken clock, right, twice a day. He finally admitted that what Donald Trump was doing was wrong. Too little, too late, if you ask me. But it really sent Steve Bannon into a tizzy, because I want people to be sure there is a concerted effort. There is an actual plan. They are not making mistakes. They are executing an agenda, and that agenda has been orchestrated by people like Steve Bannon. I'm going to show two clips. The first is of Mike Pence as he casually dismisses, firmly dismisses Donald Trump. And then I want to play the second part, which is Steve Bannon melting down because Republicans are supposed to work in lockstep together. Let's run those clips.
President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. Under the Constitution, I had no right to change the outcome of our election. And Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Pence, you're going to carry this thing eventually to your grave, okay? Because it is a mark of shame, and you are a stone-cold coward. A stone-cold coward. Boris Epstein. We're going to start with numbers and analysis, and then this thing broke this afternoon. My head's blown up, so Boris, you got to help me out here, brother. I can't take Pence. And I can't take Pence and Mark Short and all these Koch guys up there ratting out Trump up on Capitol Hill right now.
Now, just for extra credit, I want everyone in the audience to Google Boris Epstein and Google how close he is to your local news broadcast. How many times he's been on your local news broadcast as if he's a normal news commentator. He's almost on every local news station because of how their situation is set up, right? But here he is with Steve Bannon talking about overthrowing the damn government. No, Miki.
Oh, man. So I know Boris. This is a painful one here. Boris does not have an actual value in his body. I can say that. And I'm going to start saying this stuff because, you know, over the years being in media, as you know, Ben, you get to know these people if you are debating them or if you've been in campaigns like I have. It's professional to not talk about them, but I'm going to talk about them because I think that a personality, you understand what their motivations are and what's really happening. And I don't think a lot of folks understand. I really don't. These people are full of crap. They have no values. This is a game to them. You know, he used to walk into Fox News and say whatever it was to get attention. He would yell at the makeup artist. He was he was basically pushed off of Fox News because of that. He was pushed and he rewarded with his actions on the campaign, the Trump inaugural committee in 2016. But then he couldn't even maintain that because his personality was so aggressive that nobody wanted to work with him. So then he was pushed to local. But this is important because the cockroaches will always find a place to go. And local news, I mean, he works with the Sinclair Media Group, I believe, or did work with them at least. And he is on, I was visiting my parents in Arizona and there's Boris on TV delivering the news. I'm like, Boris Epstein, the lobbyist / he's being investigated for Russian interference. I mean, like, what? This guy should not be on a local channel. He's an operative. Right. It is like if Steve Bannon had a local news channel and was delivering you the local news and no one was saying anything out loud, which is why I'm saying this because you know, you do have to kind of explain who these people are in these universes. Sure. I don't know where the investigation is now, but he was very much part of the Russia investigation, as was Bannon, of course, who was, let's remind folks, arrested on his yacht, Mr. Man of the People. I don't know. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. And
I wanted to make this segment about this conversation really about Mike Pence and Steve Bannon, but I think it is more important. No, not at all. I think it is literally more important for people to understand that last part that you just said. And Dwayne, if you don't mind backing up the B-roll to show Steve Bannon next to Boris, because I really think anyone who's listening to us, if you just search your local news station, if you call them and ask them or email them and ask them, you are absolutely going to find out that the man who is standing next to Steve Bannon in this clip has been feeding you analysis in your local news as if he's an unbiased reporter. I think that's more important than Steve Bannon at this juncture, at least in this particular conversation.
And this is how Steve Bannon works, right? And this is how this entire movement works. They understand that they don't have the people and they have to feed propaganda wherever they can, and hook them in. You know, the old organizing philosophy, meet people where they are. And then you can hopefully in communication philosophy, bring them to your side a little bit more. And so what the far right has done, what Bannon has done, is he understands that he has to look at all these different demographics around the country. They don't win votes by elections by large margins unless it's completely gerrymandered. You know, they look at Florida and say, okay, well, if we can convince a few Democrats to vote Republican, you know, maybe we'll win, Florida again. Or if we can just scrape a little bit of the millennials off of the Democratic rolls, then that's enough. Or if we can get Boris Epstein in every single home in America because Sinclair is conservative, we may be able to, trick people into voting Republican again and not trusting the Democrats. And it's like death by 1,000 cuts. But it's not 1,000 cuts. It's actually getting a lot bigger, and it's horrifying. Absolutely.
Nomi, thank you. It's always great. I love these Solidarity Wednesdays. I'm going to be with you later on today. What do you have going on, and what should the people know that you have going on that they should support?
Great. Matriarch, I think last time I was on, we were getting ready for Matriarch's training, which was last Saturday. And Matriarch is, of course, an organization that supports working class women running for office at all levels. We are accepting nominations for endorsements for ongoing programs. So if you are a working class woman that's thinking of running, or are running for office, or you know someone, or you're working on a campaign of one, we urge you to go to matriarchpac.com, find someone from your community to nominate you for endorsement. The training was a 9-day training, 325 people signed up for this training, and I really blew me away how many folks showed up. Great people like Carmen Yulín Cruz, Cynthia Nixon, Park Cannon spoke at this. It was extraordinary. Georgia, we have a lot more of these going on. We have 3 more trainings planned for the year. But when you're endorsed, you're part of the ongoing program, because it's not enough to just get an endorsement and a check. Folks, because the Democratic Party is not doing its job in every single part of the country, we're trying to make up for that. Go run against a Proud Boy. That's what we're saying.
That's good.
The best people to run, women, working women.
I love it. Go run against them. Absolutely. Nomiki Constant, Nomiki Show, Solidarity Wednesdays. I'll see you later on.
Thanks, man. I'll see you later.
That said, speaking of South Florida, I want to give a shout out to, that is my stomping ground. I want to give a shout out to the School District of Palm Beach County, South Area Re-Engagement Truancy Team for tuning in this morning. The whole team is watching the shows. Shout out to you all. Thank you all for what you do. I know your work's not easy. I used to be in that field. I'm praying for y'all. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to have On the Clock with Georgia Ford. We got to cover what's going on with Amir Locke, and then Rebecca Zora, DJ Exclusive. They're joining us for Like It or Not, the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We'll be back right after this.
And the media is they're partially to blame. I got the pictures too. I got the pictures at the same time they got them. There is a website where the Minneapolis Police Department is keeping the media up to date on this case. I got the pictures too, and I did not publish them because I did not have enough information to share along with them. Our mainstream media here, moving forward, needs to assess information from the Minneapolis Police Department with the same skepticism that they would if they were talking to a person on the street. You would go and do what? You would fact check. You would vet your source. You would get confirmation from a secondary source that this is the truth. That is what mainstream media can do. At this point, the credibility of this department has diminished. There is an active investigation by the Department of Justice on the Minneapolis Police Department. 4 of its former employees are going through a federal trial. There is reason to question whether or not they're sharing with you accurate information. And also, they have a history of not holding people accountable when they share inaccurate information. John Elder, the former Minneapolis public information officer who put that press release out about George Floyd, maintained his position well after George Floyd was killed, despite the fact that he released inaccurate information.
Sister Fort, good morning to you. That clip, I didn't get a chance to see it in full yesterday, but you're hitting the pulse of the situation as it pertains to Amir Locke. And I know there's a whole lot that you've been covering. There's student protests, there's student walkouts, there's the mothers of the movement that are there. Could you just update us? What is going on with those investigations, and where are we for justice for Amir Locke? Okay, so we're still having a technical issue with Georgia's audio, and we'll get back to her audio as soon as we can. We have another clip, Dwayne. If you have that second clip while we get that resolved, I want people to really see that while the mainstream media may not be covering this story at the level that we are, the people in the city, they have stood up as always. We see the people coming out in force, and I want us to take a look at that action here.
I know that you have a lot going on, but could you just talk about what it feels like to see this many students turn out today?
Yeah, it feels amazing to see thousands of students come out all for the same purpose. We're all spread out all across Minnesota, and this is what boots on the ground looks like, right? So real systemic change when we come together as a people and mobilize, right? There's power in the number. We've seen decades upon decades show up and say that there's power in the number. So we have students with signs. Our messaging is protect young Black lives. Protect us because we matter. Protect us because we have hopes and dreams. Protect us because we're humans. And we want demands, specific demands, to be that we demilitarize the Minneapolis Police Department. The other demand is that we call resignation for Jacob Fry and the police interim. The other demand is that we ban all no-knock warrants. We've seen with Breonna Taylor, with so many people in the past who have been dealing with no-knock warrants, and it's been damaging to our community. So yet another Black man was murdered in Minneapolis recently.
It's not coming from Fry, and it's not coming from that interim chick. She can't know. If she can't stand up right now, Mr. think she can stand up when she's chief of police? What makes you think she's gonna know what to do? She gets right in the face when it comes to questions of accountability. She gets right in the face, they walk away. They walk away because they fear those questions, but they don't know the answer. They cannot be in power. They cannot protect and serve. They are simply enabled. There is them Black fear. Because that's what we're here for. That's the goal. We will be happy and we will be free. Because this is not free. Thank y'all.
Say, I'm Black and I'm proud.
I say don't complain. Y'all say activate. Don't complain. Don't complain. Don't complain. Don't complain. Don't complain. Period. I see you, bro.
Yeah, Leslie! All right, real quick. I need everybody to take their phone out.
All of y'all, do not forget the power that you have. do not forget the power that you have. Because at the end of the day,
thousands of students.
These are thousands of students showing up in solidarity, standing for justice for Amir Locke. We're going to get with Georgia as soon as we can work out the technical issue, but you can see that she's there on the scene. And despite the freezing temperatures, the people are showing up because enough's enough. And Dwayne and David, if one of you could grab a clip that we had from yesterday of the mothers speaking out. In fact, we had a clip of the father of Amir Locke speaking out. Enough is enough. The people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so the freezing temperatures did not stop students from protesting. The freezing temperatures did not stop the people from going out into the streets. And the situation is not stopping parents from standing up and declaring that the police have to stop killing us. Let's run that clip.
I don't even know how to control anymore. I am a mother. I am an auntie. I am a sister. I am a grandmother. I am a friend. I am a Black woman. Yes. My sons are 20 and 27. And when I see the face of Amir, I see my son. Yes. So when we say enough is enough, we are tired of the system failing us. The system continues to tell us to follow their laws. Well, he did. He was licensed to carry, and that cost him his life.
That's right. That's like somebody.
And I know his father. They want justice. They're not going to get their son back. That's right. But we can stand, and the more that we want is justice, yes. We want truth, yes. And we want accountability. That's right. That's what we want. That's right. But what more do you want? That's what we're going to bring. We're going to stand together in a bond that is unbreakable. Yes. What more do you want?
If Nikema Levy-Armstrong didn't interrupt that press conference, we would have heard more covers-ups. We would have continued to see Amir Locke be demonized and vilified and called suspects. Somebody said the other day, suspects is just like saying the N-word. We know what you are doing, and enough is enough.
3 months since the last election. 3 months. So you can just imagine, we work hard, we go hard in the paint, right, ladies? We're in the streets, we're talking to people, we're trying to plant some seeds of hope and encouragement. We try to give folks the information they need to make an informed decision. And you all said you were going to bring some change. And then you said that you had banned the no-knock warrants. We do not trust you. That's right. Department that we are supposed to trust. That's right. And here we are at this moment with a son that could have been dreaming only to wake up and never to dream again. Forever he will be in that dream. Buddy was my friend. Buddy is my friend. I knew Amir. Amir was 2 years younger than my son. Buddy is a tower here in this Twin Cities with our young people because I just don't have two sons. Amir was my son too. Come on. Amir was my son too. Amir was her son. Amir was her son. Amir was every one of these mothers that stand before you. Amir was our son. That's right. We will not allow this to happen. People that are in position, you need to step down and move around for others to be in place to make this city move forward. Of being sick and tired. When it gets to the point to where we say we are all we got. And if all we have is to make sure that you as political leaders are out of the way, we are going to get bigger and better and bolder. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Joining us now, of course, is investigative journalist, independent journalist, Georgia Fort. Georgia, thank you first and foremost for all of that footage. You have been streaming from the field. You have been talking to everyone. And with the time that we have, could you just tell us where we are in this fight for justice for Amir Locke?
Well, at this point, it's been 1 week since he was fatally shot by Officer Mark Hanneman. The protesters who you've heard from, community members who you've heard from this morning, all demanding that Officer Mark Hanneman be fired. The case has been passed off to Attorney General Keith Ellison, who led on both the Derek Chauvin prosecution and the Kimberly Potter prosecution. So we're also waiting to hear from him. At this point, there's been little movement. However, I will say that from the police department side, they released updated information allowing the public to have a better understanding of who exactly they were looking for last week when they had entered by key into apartment 701 of the Bolero Flats. And apparently it was a cousin of Amir Locke's. But what we were told from his family in a press release that came out from Ben Crump is that that cousin was not in apartment 701. And so there's still a lot of questions. In this case, we know that apartment 1402 and 1403 were also raided around the same time that apartment 701 was raided, where Amir Locke was. And so there's questions about why were 3 apartments raided. Again, the issue about the no-knock warrants when community leaders organized on this issue, presented legislation, had thousands of signatures to outlaw no-knock warrants in the state of Minnesota. Right. But yet here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking of the same judge, the irony, the same judge in the Derek Chauvin trial was the same judge, if I'm not mistaken, who signed the no-knock warrant that ultimately led to the death of Amir Locke. There's just too much happening in that one city, Georgia.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing I think people have to start to realize when Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, people were saying, well, he's just the bad apple. But at this point, we're beyond that. It's not just one bad apple. This is a systemic issue. And it's not just the police department. It also is the judges who are signing off on these no-knock warrants. It also is the media. And so all of these systems working together, producing inequities in the Black community specifically. And so we just keep coming back to this point about change and how everybody thought things were going to be different after George Floyd. But here we are.
Yes. Yeah. Sister Ford, when we first started this segment, it was a clip of you on the radio there locally discussing the media's role in this, right? The media being complicit in how they deliver the information. Specifically, you talked about how you had information, but you used journalistic integrity to not release it. Could you expound on that a little bit more and why that's so significant in this moment?
Well, it's significant because the media ran with a partial narrative. And so what happens when you have a partial narrative, the public has an opinion on this case that's inaccurate. When you're watching the 5 o'clock news, you trust and believe what they're reporting to you as facts, right? And and I'm not saying that this is 100% the media's fault. But it's the system and it's the way that these processes have been designed to work together. So the police department releases information and then the media releases it. Well, there has to be either more context or more research, or you have to balance it, right? What happened to the days when journalism was balanced? Before publishing the photos from the police department of Amir's gun, reach out to his family. Ask the critical questions. Did you know he had a gun? Where did he get it from? Did he have a license to have it? These are reasonable questions that should be asked before photographs of a gun are published. Because what does that do? If you publish photographs of a gun without asking those critical questions, then people assume the worst. And that's what happened. When you're a young Black man and someone publishes photographs of your gun, people are going to assume the worst. Oh, that you stole the gun, that you weren't supposed, and so now what I've seen, even with my own two eyes, as a result of the media publishing photographs of these guns without sharing with the public that he had a license to carry, we had a white woman who came and started confronting protesters who are outside of interim police chief Amelia Huffman's home, demanding that she resign. We had a white woman come up and start asking what kind of gun did he have, not knowing that he actually had a license to have that gun.
Right.
And so this, unfortunately, the death of Amir Locke is raising questions not just about no-knock warrants, but also very critical questions about, do Black Americans have the right to exercise their Second Amendment?
That's right. That's right. Sister Ford, thank you for all the coverage that you're doing there. And I know you're going to be out covering it from the field throughout its entirety. I want to shift gears because we have Senator Nina Turner on the line. And I want to say good morning to her. She is running, of course, for Ohio's 11th congressional district. Friend of the show, a fighter for liberation, I like to call her. Sister Turner, thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Brother Dixon. I'm fine. How are you?
I am blessed, and I am happy to be speaking with you. I wish that we could segue with something a little bit less traumatic than another Black life snatched away by the policing agencies. And obviously, I know you're running for the seat in Ohio, and we'll discuss that. But I just want to get your thoughts on this. Yet another Black man, another Black person killed by the police.
Yeah, and just being able to have an opportunity to listen to what Sister Georgia was saying, it makes so much sense about how people jump out there. And always when there is prejudgment, African Americans are going to get the worst end of that prejudgment. We are always assumed to be guilty no matter what the situation is. And that presumption of innocence does not it does not speak to us. It doesn't cater to us, whether we are the victim or the perpetrator. It doesn't matter what role we are in any said situation. It is always assumed, as I think it was Brother Ice Cube who said in one of his rap lyrics, "My skin is my sin." That continues to be the case. It's been the case from the beginning, at least our experience on this continent in whole, from our ancestors to this very moment. And it is unfortunate. Yes, it is very sad that happened. That no-knock warrant should not have happened in that case. We do understand that if somebody is in imminent danger, the key word is imminent danger, then there may be a few cases, very few cases, where no-knock warrants may be necessary, but they are not necessary in the overwhelming majority of the cases. Right. And my God, if somebody has a gun in their house or in their apartment, in their place at night or early in the morning because they sleeping, that is their right to do so. And I love Sister Georgia's point about whether or not all them Second Amendment folks. Do you believe that it applies to Black folks? And so we all know that Brother Killer Mike talks about that all the time, about the Second Amendment. We know people like Ida B. Wells, for example, Barnett, who was an investigative journalist, who laid it down, who called to question lynching in this country of African-American folks. And she firmly believed that Black folks need to carry. And there are Black people in this country who do believe in the Second Amendment and believe that we should have the right. If we think about the Black Panthers, too, for example, that was the same thing. So all of that Second Amendment goes out the window when it's Black folks having the gun. And whether or not we are assumed or presumed to not have the right to carry a gun, we know that there were rules on the book, both de facto and de jure, laws and in practice, where Black folks were not allowed to have guns in this country, even though, and so their Second Amendment rights were trampled upon. So which is it? We cannot have it both ways. So, Brother Ben, I'm glad that you're covering this. And Dad, Sister Georgia, you laid it down. I mean, those should be the steps. Calling the family first. Ask them some questions before you jump out there on the limb. And whether or not the gun was registered or not was not necessarily the point in that moment. You know, you can deal with that after the fact. Like if it was a non-registered gun or he wasn't supposed to have it, let him live. And let's go and
Yes.
fight that out in the judicial system.
That's right. Right. That should not at any point be a death sentence, a summary execution on the spot. It's difficult to move away from these stories because we have to be persistent and consistent for justice. And that's something that you have fought for a long time, Sister Turner. We've talked and you've been on the show. You're a fighter for liberation. I've lived in a lot of places. I feel like I've lived a lot of lives, but I know the 11th district well. Cleveland is my family home. Tell us about the race there and your strategy, because we need some victories.
Yes.
Yeah, we really do. It's been 2 weeks and a day since I announced, and we're working really hard. We are waiting now to see what the district will look like because the Ohio Supreme Court, and rightfully so, ruled both the legislative lines and the congressional lines unconstitutional. A GOP legislature run amok per usual. To quote my grandmother, she would talk about people who have lost their ever-loving minds. Republicans have done just that all across this country, and they're gerrymandering the hell out of districts, which is wrong because politicians should not be able to pick their constituents. It should be the other way around, and we have to deal with that entire system. That being said, what I do know about the district is that all of Cleveland will be in the new 11th congressional district. So it will be a new district, new people, new time. And my campaign this time around will have the opportunity, really deep opportunity, to get our message out about the needs of the people in this district, in this state, and also in this country. We're going to run hard. The same reasons exist why I ran in 2021 are still relevant today. People are suffering. People do not believe their material conditions are not changing, and people need a fighter and a champion and somebody not just to fight for them, but fight with them, alongside of them. And that is why I am running again, Brother Ben and Sister Georgia.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're running again. I can't lie. I was very confident that you were going to win when you ran last time, and was a bit disappointed at some of the politicians who present themselves as for us that stepped up and used some of their political capital to back other people. Could you just share with us what that experience was like for you and from your vantage point, your perspective, why you think there was a huge push in that district specifically to go with a different candidate?
Yeah, and this district, historic, it was created because we had two African-American champions. They were brothers, both Mayor Carl B. Stokes and Congressman Lewis Stokes. And Congressman Lewis Stokes was, in fact, the first African-American congressman from the great state of Ohio. So what it took to even get the 11th congressional district. Sister Georgia, I do believe that there are forces out there that absolutely do not want the people to have a champion. So it's not just people like me in Ohio. It's happening all over the country that when there is a progressive candidate, the corporatists from both sides pounce because they do not want to see the requisite change. They do not want to have voices that are unbought and unbossed, to quote Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. And so the forces did converge. And it's not so much that people swooped in to support one candidate over another. There were 13 people in this race, and it really came down to two of us. But it's the how they did it. The fact that this is a solidly Democratic district, there was really no need to get engaged in this race in the ways that they did. There's a difference. There's a different kind of energy when you are for somebody. You're using that energy to push for, versus if you're using energy to be totally against. And there was clearly a anybody but Nina campaign launched. I was warned after I announced that they were coming for me, they being the special interest groups and the corporatist types, whether they're Republican or Democrat, that they were coming for me with all they had. And that proved to be absolutely true. We do have some data that says that thousands of Republicans, by way of examples, actually voted in this special election. Let us not forget that election last year in August was the only election going on in the entire United States of America. And so that allowed the anti-forces to really coalesce and come at Sister Turner hard. I swear to you, every single day at a certain point in the latter weeks of that election that I would come home, there was some negative hit piece on me or billboards all over the city of people maligning, my name and also my reputation and absolutely smearing me. And that people want to say that all is fair in politics, but at a certain point, it is not fair. And to try to caricature me as an African-American woman, and a chocolate African-American woman at that, is really wrong. You know, there's a recent article that came out in the Cleveland Plain Dealer about 2 weeks ago now that showed that there was a PAC created to go after the new mayor, to really hurt him, and it was really anti-black and really racist, and that there were local people involved in giving to that PAC to do that to him. Now, he was victorious, but how low will you go? I mean, that will become the question. You should do everything to win, but not anything to win. And some of those same forces that were revealed in going after the new mayor, Mayor Justin Bibb, in the way that they did, darkening his face. We know this stuff is as old as time, right? What they do to African Americans, and especially if you are a darker hue African American, to invoke fear. Local, you know, the Haslams, other people were involved in that. These are some of the same people who supported my number one opponent. So again, we're going to fight. We're going to take the message to the people that this time, in terms of the hurt, I mean, we have a tax credit. They expired, right? A child tax credit expired. Just was revealed that community colleges will not be free, that we will not make that investment. But meanwhile, back in the halls of Congress, they always find a bipartisan way to increase funding for war making. But they don't find the way to be bipartisan in lifting the people of this nation, the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class, and taking care of, speaking to, and pushing policies that answer to their material needs. So the reason, the mission is still the same.
Sister Turner, I know we have you for just a few more minutes. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about all the things that you're fighting for and that you're fighting against, because when I hear you mention the tactics that they used in the district last time around, I really kind of want to unpack that for the audience, because I mean, they did a little bit of everything, including darkening your skin even more to make you seem whatever they were trying to make you seem. Let's unpack that a little bit. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show right after this.
I can't let you go, baby. I just want to tell you that. No. All of my friends say, girl, you better take care, 'cause that man is trouble, you best beware. And though deep down, I know I might be headed for teardrops. Now that you got me started, I just can't stop. No.
Good morning.
'Cause I love you, baby.
Y'all know who it is.
I can't let you go,
James
baby.
Bubba Williams is in the building. DJ Exclusive is here, y'all. Good morning, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat room.
For love so true. When I was down and out, along came you. Though you might be a liar and a cheat too, I just can't quit you now 'cause I love you. Yes, I do. I
Good
can't
morning,
let you
everybody.
go, baby. I can't let you go, baby. 'Cause I love you.
Laura, good morning. Melanie Nicole Howard, Cyber Demon, One Trust Productions, good morning.
'Cause I love you, baby.
Brenda Johnson, Six Dragon Daddy, Amber Layla, Juanita, good morning. Jason Mark, Laura Cerise, good morning. Good morning, Mama.
'Cause I love you, yeah.
Environmental Cop House, good morning to you. Lily, good morning.
But after I met you, I felt it was my chance. But nobody tells me good things about you, baby. I'm gonna stay right here.
One ATL Country Boy, what's going on, brother?
I can't let you go.
Good morning.
I can't let you go, yeah.
Iris Jones, good morning to y'all.
I can't let you go, yeah.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the screen. Good morning, y'all.
Do we sacrifice the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class to protect the ultra-wealthy? Or do we treat our people as America's greatest asset and ensure everyone has a real chance to live a good life? Families are struggling with higher gas and food prices, stagnant wages, and shrinking benefits, while corporations make record profits. These are unprecedented times. Our leaders can't settle for just enough. They must fight for what we deserve. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress because we deserve a voice for change in Washington. A leader who is on the side of the people, not out for the powerful or out for themselves. A leader who understands that healthcare has been denied to millions of Americans for far too long and will fight for Medicare for all. A leader who knows poverty is a policy choice and the minimum wage must be raised to a living wage. Who won't take a dime from special interest PACs or do their bidding. You deserve a leader who is from here, who knows what it's like to grow up and live their life in this community, who has stood up for reproductive justice and served on the front lines of the fight for criminal justice reform and voting rights, not for days, but for decades. A member of Congress that stands shoulder to shoulder with leaders like Bernie Sanders, unapologetically to fight for working people and speak truth to power. And here's the truth. Greater Cleveland needs a change maker, not someone who just go along to get along. We can put an agenda through Congress that puts working families first, and that's worth fighting for. Something you can feel. Good union jobs, expanded health care, child care, and climate justice. Winning the battle against Republicans and the holdouts in our party will only happen when we put it all on the line for everyday people. An America as good as its promise is worth fighting for. Our children are worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for.
Sister Turner, there's a million and one things about your policies that I want to discuss and that I respect, but it's the matching the matching glasses, the frames for me. It's like I absolutely love. I mean, and I'm looking at it's just I hate to go there, but it's just it's a beautiful video, and it just touches the surface of the depth of what you bring, which is why I have and continue to support you. You said a line in that commercial that I got to dig into. You said poverty is a policy choice. Can we talk about that for a minute? Because the government actually did some good last in 2021 by the checks, cutting down childhood poverty. We can end poverty if we decide to. Talk about that for me.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And I heard you giving the amens.
It was touching my spirit.
You know? Mine's too. Every time I watch it and listen to it, it really does, and that is my mission summed up. Poverty is a policy choice, and we can make new choices. We know that not only the checks, as you laid out in the CARES Act, but also the child tax credit cut childhood poverty in half. Now, I would argue when you got a good thing going, keep building on it. Don't go the other way. Let's go for 100%, because cutting it in half means that we still have more work to do. But instead of building on that, we back in a situation right now where the child tax credit is gone right now because you have members of Congress, particularly on the Senate side, who cannot get it together. We can absolutely make sure that people have paid family and medical leave, Dixon. I mean, look at what is happening with the pandemic. So many people who punch a clock for a living cannot take off, no matter how sick they are or somebody in their family, because they won't get paid. What is wrong with making sure in the United States of America, let's follow the lead of some of the other industrialized nations and ensure that people have paid family and medical leave, that people have the requisite time that they need to take to deal with some of the personal challenges that happen just because you are a human being. What's wrong with investing in 2-year? I want to see universities too, but let's go ahead and start with 2-year colleges. We just got word that even that is stripped out, that they're not going to make 2-year colleges tuition free, which would cost about $45 billion over 5 years. It is worth the investment. If we look at it as the way that we invest in K through 12 education and we make it pre-K to at least 2-year college, we have a social contract Brother Ben, that doesn't make, we are making an investment. What is wrong with having a living wage? They caved on that right away and blamed the parliamentarian. So again, if we make different choices, then we will have different outcomes.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about the race, the recent race, and I came up to Cleveland to cover it. And I saw the negative ads all over the city. I mean, they really came after you. And I think it's meaningful for us to actually lay that out. They have been coming after you specifically. This is not a fake grievance. You know how sometimes when preachers in church, they always preach about haters, and a lot of people they don't have haters. You literally have people with political power who followed you all around the country back to your district to make sure that you did not win on behalf of the people. Why are there so many people afraid of your campaign?
Because they know that my only special interest will be the everyday people in my district and in this country, that if having Medicare for all is wrong, I don't want to be right. If wanting the minimum wage increased to a living wage is wrong, I don't want to be right. If standing up and saying unequivocally that voting rights must be protected and expanded is wrong, I don't want to be right. You know, and they know this, so they know that I'm not going to equivocate on these issues, and that is why they launched the Anybody But Nina campaign. It was real, Brother Ben, and you know because you were here, you got to see it for yourself. It was absolutely real, and the numbers, the phone calls that I got from people who are in the know, who had their ear to the ground, who even talked to some of the people who said we coming at her. They made it very clear that it was going to be Anybody But Nina. 13 people in the race, and they came at me with everything that they had to try to stop me. And why? Because I want Medicare for all, because I call out injustice, because I say to both my party and these recalcitrant Republicans that we must do better, should do better. And if you don't want to serve the people, get the hell out of office. That's why you coming at me in that way? And because when my emotion fits the need. So for all the pearl clutchers and the tie tighteners, get over it. You know, they tried to use angry black woman. They did use angry black woman. Well, I'm here to state I am mad as hell about the suffering of the people in my district and in this country. And baby, if you're not mad, God bless you. But there's some angry folks out here, and we need to challenge that anger and use it to push for change. You know, I think Mrs. Rosa Parks was angry that day. That she said, I ain't getting up. I ain't moving. Not this day. I done did it too many times. I'm not doing it today. It's clear the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was angry as he analyzed this country and called to question its very moral fiber when it came to materialism, racism, poverty. Yes, he did. Minister Malcolm X was angry. Hell, people who are angry and use that anger to righteously indict suffering, to call it out. Nothing wrong with that. And a whole host of other folks, you know, Daisy Bates, angry, another angry black woman, you know, in the civil rights movement. So many people, Dixon, that we can name. They were mad as hell and they weren't going to take it anymore. They challenged this country, and they channeled their anger for what is right, for what is just, and for what is good. And my last point to this, if you were drowning in the middle of an ocean, who do you want to come and save you or to help save your life? Do you want the person that got to clutch the pearls or tighten the tie or make sure that everything is all prim and proper? Or do you want the person that's going to throw caution to the wind and no matter what it takes, get out there and help to save your life? That's how I'm rolling. I am a hell-raising humanitarian, and I know that my style and affect is not for everybody, but too many people, whether they're black or brown or Asian or the swirl in between, whether they Jew or Gentile, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, young, seasoned, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. People are suffering in this country, and we can't turn a blind eye to it. And we don't need people who just gonna go along to get along or put their finger up in the wind to see which way the wind is going, decide to support things like Medicare for all when it's popular, but ain't gonna do a damn thing to make sure that it actually happens. We don't need leaders like that. We need people who are going to actually make a sacrifice, even if it causes them some pain. And Brother Dixon, that's why Sister Turner running. Yeah, people are suffering. They out in the ocean drowning, and they need somebody to radically come out there
Oh man, you need somebody who can walk on water. One other person got angry and chased the capitalists out of the temple. Jesus. Tell us before you get out of here, because if I had an organ, you were preaching just a second ago. But before you get out of here, I want you to tell the people how they can support you, where they can go and get more information about you, but also talk about that liberation part of your faith, because you're doing this we've talked. I believe that you're doing this as a testament to your faith that doesn't want to see anybody marginalized or oppressed. Speak to those two things.
Nobody. No, I don't want to see anybody. A poet, Langston Hughes, asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? I'm just working with a whole bunch of other folks, because not one person can do it alone, to ensure, at least to create an environment where very few people have to ask the question about what happens to a dream deferred. And that is the workaday people of this country, the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class, no matter how they identify, no matter what they bring to the table, no matter where their ancestors hail from, that they don't have to ask those questions. And for me, I am on assignment. It is like being a missionary. I mean, this calling is all on me. I couldn't stop doing the work, even if I tried. And I don't have to have, it's not about having a fancy title to do the work, but what other levels, where are the places that we can shake things up? Everybody has a role to play. And I do firmly believe that my district, which is the city of Cleveland is the poorest city of its size in the United States right now, definitely needs a change maker, somebody that has a vision that will provide provision for the people. And when you are a visionary, you don't go with the status quo. You can't say that this is, 50%, for example, cutting the child tax credit and cutting poverty by 50% is good enough. You say, amen, I'm glad we did it. Now, what about the other 50%?
What about it?
What about it? So people can find NinaTurner.com, time, talent, and treasure. We need it all. This is going to be a fight. As it was in 2021, those same forces are already back out. They will try to do the same thing in 2022. But we have an awesome opportunity, because this is the regular election cycle. Constitutional offices are on the ballot in Ohio. A United States Senate office is on the ballot in Ohio. And I do not believe that all of those Republicans who crossed over in the special election will cross over this time, because they need to get their nominees in place. If you believe that we can have better, that we can do better, that you deserve better, then I need you to fight with me and help me make it to the United States Congress. I will be elected from this district, but my service will be to this entire country, and you won't have to wonder where I stand. Now, we might not always agree on every single issue, but you won't have to worry where Sister Turner stands. It is going to be for the marginalized, the dispossessed, the people who are down and out, the people who are hurting the most, who need to know that somebody actually gives a damn about their suffering, and who will help to make some crooked paths straight to help them be able to live out their greatest greatness.
NinaTurner.com. Y'all go support this Sister Turner, Senator Turner. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Brother Ben. To you and the crew, too. Thank you all for what you're doing as well. Y'all shining bright lights. Thank you.
God bless you. We'll be back with Like It or Not after this.
I'm just cheesing over here. Thank you so much, Senator Nina Turner, for joining us this morning. Make sure if y'all in that make sure y'all do your thing, man. We got to make some changes around here. So let's get it done. Good morning, everybody. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Rebecca Azora is in the building. She'll be joining us momentarily here on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Like it or not. It's on right now. Jam, 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 jam. Sounding like you're wasting every time. Shut up. Jam, jam, what's going on? Jam, 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 jam. Randy Rubber, good morning. Roller Dragon. Afraid not, good morning. We not shine black royalty. We not step Dragon. We on the season 3 music right now. So kind of neck is started. You waiting on me to start. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. I found some bangers. Bangers. Like bum, bum, bum. Back in rotation. Cigarettes and
that season. Shine bright as that season. Girl, you know you are a jam, 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 jam.
Good morning, Brother Tiger. Indian Brown, what's going on? Juanita. Ross Banana. Good morning. Infinite Concrete. Good morning.
Jam, 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 jam. Send it like you ice in this time. Can't you? Yeah, you make me feel like we could do. Yeah, you make me feel like we could do.
Good morning, Buddha.
All over again, all over again. Can't you? Yeah, you make me feel like we could do. Yeah, you make me feel like we could do it. All over again, all over again. Jam, jam,
Lily, good morning. Pickles and mustard don't go in a hot dog. Good morning. Good morning.
Jam, 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 jam. Jam, jam, jam,
The Fella S, good morning to you.
jam, jam. Sending like you ice in a wristani.
Man, I just found out that isn't a real word. I can't tell you how angry I am.
The night is on your channel, yeah. Politics and culture is we change skin like we're supposed to, yeah. Interviews and all the news, we get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor, it started now, so stick around. Like it or not, it's going down.
Y'all know what time it is. They tried to silence me, but they could not. God damn it. It ain't my fault. Y'all done cut out my stick.
You know she got a good story for you. Oh, Benjamin.
And they ain't even hear the other song that was playing. They so busy running their mouth in the background. Only person I be hearing is Dwayne.
He's a politics bro. I am your DJ.
But all right, y'all, we gonna go ahead and get into it.
DJ exclusive. Y'all know who I am. I stay dropping them jams. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. Oh, like it or not, it's starting now. Like it or not, it's about to go down.
Here we go, y'all.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Shout out to Dwayne who was sitting there at the desk and said, I thought about it like, I don't have time for this shit.
Hey, welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth.
And not care who doesn't like it.
And the truth is, Dwayne had a little situation on his hand this morning. He had solidarity with dads who change blowout diapers while doing a live show.
For all them people that want me to turn my camera on in the mornings for the show, I should turn the camera on and just let it be poop cam. That's what we're gonna call it, and just bring it up. And,
and I'll tell you this: I really believe, and y'all can fight me, whatever. I really believe that men they are so over dramatic about changing diapers. That's how I feel. Now, and I can say this because
David.
my baby, my brother, was incarcerated at one point, and I had to take his newborn for like 4 months. And of course, I take care of the other kid and stuff, but I had to take his newborn for like 4 months. And I'm like, this is stuff that you just have to really, you be like changing the diaper, trying to do things. But the men, even my brothers, so this their damn kid, they're just like, oh, it's just someone. Why you gotta poop like this? Why this gotta come out of you? Why is this a thing? And then the mom just be like, it's just crazy, girl. It's coming out green today. I don't know what he ate, but it's coming out green today.
But I'm gonna let Rebecca. I'm gonna let you have that. Go ahead, James.
I'm about to say, Rebecca, have you dealt with the blowout issue before? Like where it's just
when it's seeping
oozing out of
the
diapers
diaper into the clothes. When it's seeping out of the diaper into the clothes, into the car seat. Excuse me.
No, a proper blowout.
Okay,
a proper blowout gets to their neck.
And they're pooping out, and it's dripping on your arm.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't even want to take them to the public bathroom. So now, and I don't want to change them in the middle of here. Now I got to go back to the car and change them and bring them back in. Always bring changing clothes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Rebecca, no. Okay.
Rebecca's
I just know about word of mouth. Word of mouth.
Well, she knows, yeah, because there's a difference between babies you can hand back and babies that you got to change at 2 a.m. because poop got up to their chin and you try to make sure that got
it is. But like I said, I had my nephew for 4 months within a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. He was incarcerated, so I had to take care of the babies for that time. So that's 3 kids getting scratched in the face by one kid that don't sleep. I had to spike his drinks.
You reminded me of being
I had to spike his drinks. And then the other kid would just wake up and turn on the TV by himself while his baby brother, which was the newborn that I had to be all kinds of colic, and it was just too much. But you just gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But no,
okay, Rebecca. Rebecca's natural born mother instinct.
And it is true. But no, I just see the men in my family, my friends who are fathers. I just see how they are, and listening to Dwayne. Naturally, you got to be with your baby. It's you're a father, but it's funny how fathers are versus the moms. Like him saying that he's trying to keep his food down. Like I said, moms just be like, "Girl, it's just coming out." Like I said, purple today. I don't know what's going on. What did he?
Listen, like I just said,
I changed a diaper that had a full 2-liter, a full 2-liter label coming out of it.
You're not gonna win this one.
A full 2-liter label of
the chat's
Sprite.
eating.
I said, what did he eat? What did he eat? 2-liter Sprite label? Why is that coming out of his poop? Now I gotta.
Wait. You had it. Wait. Hold on. Rebecca. That went by my radar. You said the baby had a 2-liter Sprite label in the poop.
A 2-liter Sprite label coming out of his poop, and I had to dissect.
Y'all, somebody got called the police on y'all.
You gotta dissect the poop and be like, what's going on? What color is it? Why is this coming out? I know he probably swallowed it, but Jesus Christ, when did this happen? And then you gotta check the poop for the next few hours to make sure everything is going right.
If you got that's some crazy stuff going on down there. They put in our whole Sprite bottles. That's
Dwayne, what you was gonna say, Dwayne? Right.
I was just gonna say it's not the poop that bothers me. I don't got no problem changing diapers. It's the fact, like I said in the chat, it's the fact that I go into it thinking, all right, Bubba, just give me like a couple minutes so I can change his just regular diaper real quick, and then I open up the blanket, and it's like, nah, we gotta get a rag, we gotta get some water, I gotta change clothes. So it's like that's what it is.
You gotta bathe the baby.
And like I say, Rebecca, the offer still stands. Anytime you want to come on up here, you can come change diapers while I do the show. We good.
There it is.
I'm there. I'm the number one. Like, ask anybody. I'm the number one. I'm the number one. I could change a diaper literally in my sleep. I could hold the baby right here, change the diaper, and still tell the story. It's all possible.
I'm about to say Rebecca could be on camera doing like it or not and changing the diaper at the same time. The baby won't be crying. The baby gonna be still. Rebecca gonna just be going like, okay,
right here. No, literally, that's exactly what it is. And I would, and I just love kids so much. But honestly, having to go through that phase of it, not being a mom, but having to do that because of the circumstances, it definitely, like me and my best friend were talking, and she's a mom now. Yesterday I was talking to her. She was like, girl, I remember I used to be calling you and used to be like, hold on, girl, sit down now. And then like have the baby over here like, girl, I'm trying to put him to sleep. He only sleep to this song. He only sleep like this. It's ridiculous. But yeah, but it was it's a good experience. So when I am eventually a mom, I know you never prepare for those things. I know you're never ready for things. I might have a kid that, ain't even like that. Who knows? But I think I'm prepared for a poopy baby. Who's a poopy baby?
Rebecca will have baby's kid.
One thing I've learned. One thing I've learned is not to test fate, not to tempt the universe. I ain't gonna say I can handle all the poopy diapers because there's gonna be a special one for you, Rebecca. You have just talked up the ultimate poop bomb. Your babies are gonna be beautiful. They're gonna be some beautiful babies.
Beautiful black and poopy.
Pampers up.
Big heads.
As we're giving these unique, detailed descriptions, maybe we should go to a real artist.
A real artist. David, you're going to leave the segues to me. Here we go. Let's go to.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking terrible.
But I was trying.
So the doodle is art, and then now you want to make it be like we're going to go to a real art.
Okay.
I see what you were doing there, but I didn't.
Nah, man, but we ain't gonna because we artists. We all artists, and we sensitive about our shit here now. We can't introduce India Irie that way. I don't care how.
Okay, I got it now. I got it. Thank y'all for explaining that, because that one went over my head. Normally it goes over Rebecca's heads, but that one went over my head.
It was under the wig, baby.
It was a stretch.
I had to come and help David. It was under the wig. But I had to come and help David.
Bit of a stretch there, David. That said, let's go to a real artist. India Irie, part 2. Set it up. Who got it to set it up?
So India Irie went on CNN yesterday to Don Lemon about, Joe Rogan actually calling her personally to apologize. In this apology, she actually states that she doesn't believe that he's a racist. She doesn't believe that he's a racist. She thinks that she heard the apology. She believes that he understands what he's done. But that's not her business at this point. He apologized. She wants to move on. A lot of people are saying, hey, India, you started this canceling process for Joe Rogan, and now you're, you're taking a step back. A lot of people are saying that she probably took a check or whatever the case may be, but she has since gone to her Instagram and updated that as well. But we can take a look at the apology that India Irie said yesterday.
I think you have a very nuanced perspective about this, and I really respect it. You say that Joe Rogan has spurred this protest, but it's not actually about him. What's it about, ma'am?
It's about a confluence of energies. Because there is Joe Rogan, his insensitive language around race. There's that. And there's also Spotify and their treatment of artists, and there's that. I knew about Joe Rogan's insensitive comments around race before, because I'm a podcast listener and I had heard many episodes of his podcast. When I learned of his language, I just tuned out on my own. But it was brought into my world as an artist, a working musician, which is, I want to get into that tonight, I hope. But as a working musician who has always had issues with Spotify, and then they bring in this Joe Rogan thing, and now it creates a thing that I can't not speak up about. So he's not the reason, but he is the final reason.
If Joe Rogan was an ally to the artist and could understand, because he's in that position, he makes a lot of money, maybe he can join forces with you and help you guys to get to where you want, to meet there's some sort of happy medium.
I mean, I think it would be a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when people are allies to each other in any realm. I don't expect that fully, but I have to say, I did think he did a fine job with his apology. Mm-hmm. He said a lot of the things I would want to hear someone say. The thing that stuck out for me most was when he said, "It's not my word to use."
Right.
And I think change behavior is what we're really looking for. If it went all the way to allyship, that would be wonderful. But also, change behavior would be wonderful too.
So since this conversation, she's gone to her Instagram and she stated that her real issue was, I'm going to use Joe Rogan because he said racist comments. She said in her Instagram post, because you know how it is when you get on these major news networks, they do, they channel in on what they really want from you. They edit that part out, or they ask you the specific questions. Now on her, right after this interview, a few hours later, she gone to her personal Instagram and she was stating that, what she said was not that he wasn't a racist. We know that his comments were racist, but it was the fact that he understood his comments were racist, which makes his apology to me, it let me know that he did understand that they were bad. What he was doing was bad, but that's where she said the disingenuous parts come in. It's like, you knew that whole time it was bad, but until you got caught, that's where the issue was. And then yesterday, I know on the show that I was speaking about, for me, it's the fact that Joe Rogan is a racist ass MFer. And this was the narrative that India Irie wanted to talk about. He's racist. We all knew he's racist. He's been racist. I made a comment. All of a sudden, my comment blows up. But my issue was the fact that $100 million was given to a racist when Spotify is supposed to be, was built on the backs of artists, particularly artists of color, and you're giving $100 million to this person to, flourish in this space while we're just getting pennies to a dollar. That was, I think, where the real issue came in. But for her to say, you guys know his content, you guys know his commentary, and to move forward with him in this sense. Now, I think we know NDRE. She's from the heart. She feels like this is not her issue. This is not her issue to carry. He's apologized to her. She said that, again, his commentary, he knows what he did was wrong. He knows what he said was wrong. She said that, and she said on her Instagram, I'm reading this verbatim from her Instagram right now, my statement on CNN last night was incomplete. For clarity, here it is, and here's what she thinks. So she dropped a few videos about what I just said. She says, I don't need to call him a racist. His actions will determine his label. I don't need to call for canceling him. The people will or won't by their decision. So where is your stance on that? So that's where she said her issue as an artist is being on these on Spotify and knowing that they have these racist people or people who don't stand for much and who are saying racist commentary and offering them $100 million, while us who get on these and build these platforms to be where they are getting pennies to a dollar. Make it make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It never has. I know Joe Rogan gets a lot of streams, but Spotify is literally redistributing the royalties from labor. Like, I feel I didn't like the way, I guess it was Baller Alert. I forgot which one of those pages. I read this, their reaction to NDIRE on Don Lemon, and it kind of cast it in a light that I still don't kind of agree. They made it seem like she was fully turning around. I don't feel like she's fully turning around here. I think she actually is bringing some nuance. Agreed. I think she's like parsing the difference and saying what she's capable of doing, what she's not. She's not capable of canceling that man by himself. She said the people going to do it or they're not. So framing of headlines really makes a difference, because I don't disagree with what she said in her clip.
I don't disagree.
Definitely agree, man.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, it's one of those things where a lot of people are saying she's backpedaling. I don't really think it's backpedaling what she's doing. She's just putting out there what she feels that she needs to do, which is cool, which is back up. I mean, granted, she said Rogan is the final reason that I'm leaving. I just wish more artists would do the same thing. Granted, NDRE may not be the biggest artist, some of those other big name artists that are on the platform, but still, it's a step in the right direction. I don't see anything wrong with what she's doing or anything what she said. And truth is truth. The people will cancel Joe Rogan. It's not going to be her. Her canceling won't make a hell of a difference if you really think about it.
Yeah, and NDRE is actually a artist that makes, that streams a lot over God knows how many millions in a year on Spotify, as I know, because she posts up the numbers, but that's on Spotify only. On every streaming network, anybody who is a millennial child knows NDRE. If you know you've gone through depression, you listen to NDRE. If you know you want to come and cleanse yourself and be a part with the universe, you've listened to NDRE. If you know that you want to love on your black man, you've listened to NDRE. Valentine's Day is coming up, and you have listened to NDRE. Yeah, you popping into Brown Skin, you popping into Good Man, you popping into all kinds of music. But I say this to say, she has been a part of building the culture for neo soul. She is a neo soul originator. Not only is she a neo soul originator, she's built these platforms and they've used her voice. And they count. The only reason why they're tapping on her shoulder right now, because they weren't tapping on her shoulder when she said, "Hey, it's kind of problematic. I want to have this conversation about the rules around, people like Joe Rogan and many other people who are on this platform who are saying," and the owner of Spotify who was talking about, giving misinformation about COVID-19. I want to talk about that. Nobody was really stretching that out. But as soon as she said, you know what, let me drop a name down, because now they're messing with my money. They messing with my money. And I want to really have this conversation because his rhetoric is terrible. Now, there's so many people whose rhetoric are terrible in these spaces. But the fact that you're giving $100 million to Joe Rogan, I'm an artist on this platform. And this is what I do. This is what Spotify does. But you are literally giving me pennies to a dollar. And I believe, because I am a black woman, I get the lowest, the bottom of the barrel. The bottom of the barrel when it comes to that. And that's a conversation that people don't want to play with. Now, they ate her alive in the comment section, calling her everything from the ER to a bitter, black artist who is mad that she's no longer where she, wants to be. And the truth be told, she's still, huge in the neo soul world, in the R&B world. If you know soul music, you listen to her. But not only that, and she's a writer for so many other artists, white and black. But they went into her comment section and they tried to eat her alive. We know who the far right or the racist people, they'll do that. But it's the people who look like us, and they have these platforms, and they'll do these misleading headlines and titles, and it's almost as if they're pushing the same agenda, but it's to get the numbers, it's to get the pull, to say that she backpedaled. But if you watch the full interview, and she's been having to do this time and time again, her commentary on the Grammys, when she said the Grammys and the industry doesn't love Black people, and here's why. And she dropped everything. The articles and the people who were wanting to interview her were just using, of course, a portion of what she said and going with that, and not actually looking at the details. Not saying that I agree with her just going on to CNN and doing that, but her actually saying that's not what I said, because she's good for it. This is what I meant, and this is what I said. Now, if I'm getting the check, if I'm fighting for right now, we're in the space, y'all, and we know that we're not getting money fighting the same fight that a certain other person is doing or a certain other network is doing with the same people, male, female, male, right, as the people who are the anchors or the co-hosts of the show, and because they're white, they're getting a check. It's going to be problematic for me too. It's going to be problematic for me too. And I'm going to have that conversation. And I'm going to point out the problems with people who, if you go through their history, now I know if you go through my Twitter, and we talk about this on the show, our politics have been terrible. Terrible. Like, because of what our faith is, how we were brought up, and things like that. But when I look at some of these people who are white, who are speaking for Black voices in this time, and it wasn't too long ago that they were so racist on that same platform. But see, I don't want to listen to us talking about our own experience. You still rather listen to them because of how society has made us think when you see a white person talking about this, it must be right.
Oh, well, they definitely rather have a white person talk to them about racism than a Black person.
Yeah.
I mean, we found that out pretty early on in this industry. The only other thing, Rebecca, I hear you. I don't disagree with you. I just want to say this about India.Arie. She's too good for me to have to explain to any ignorant Neanderthal how good she is. If y'all don't know how good she is, that's your ignorant fault, right? I don't feel that there should even be a conversation about caliber of work, especially when we're talking about that sloth knuckle dragger Joe Rogan. India.Arie, Joe Rogan, right? Now, I know we're talking about just raw numbers. Anybody would do anything for those kind of numbers that Joe Rogan gets, and that's the problem that we have right now. But in terms of like artistry, professionalism, like qualitative work, Joe Rogan is not even good at his own podcast. He just sits, he isn't. India.Arie is in a whole nother echelon where I'm like, yeah. If you guys don't know who she is, then continue to stay in that level of ignorance that's necessary for you to think that you're supreme above us. That's all.
Y'all know I love y'all, right? And I just can't hold my tongue. I'm not going to say I can't hold my tongue because everything you said is true. But, I just have to... India.Arie is one of those artists, it's like a niche artistry, if you would. So you're not going to have a lot of people that have listened to her like we have. I will say India.Arie is not somebody I go to all the time to listen to. I was there for her hits, Not the Average Girl from the video. Because I Am a Queen, those couple of songs. But, after those, I kind of fell off listening to her. It was good for the time frame. So I'm not trying to throw no salt on her or anything that she does, but she's just, I don't think that her artistry, never mind. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, please do. But I would say
that's the truth, Rebecca.
I knew Rebecca was going to come around the corner.
The music is my realm, and I'm going to say she's not there anymore.
Yeah.
She's not.
So for you, she's not. But that's the thing. And that's why I say
the country, she's not, Rebecca. I'm sorry, we can prove that.
No, actually, she is. Like I said, even on Spotify itself, she's gained over so many millions. I'm talking like over 100 million views, or listens on her music. So she's there. But what the thing is, they won't pay her for being there because they believe, like you, it's a niche artist. But let me tell you this: every artist is a niche artist. I can tell you right now that the songs that are playing on the radio today that are considered to be, spiking the charts and things like that.
Island Boy.
It's niche music to me.
That's not on the radio, bitch.
If I don't listen to trap of the Generation Zs or the end of the millennials, that don't make me just, I don't like that music. It don't hit me. It don't do what it needs to do to me. I can go back to the 90s. That's a niche style of music that I can go back to and feel something about. So all music is niche music, but I think that just because sometimes we're not in that circle, my whole timeline on Instagram, my whole timeline even on Twitter, they love NDRE. So I don't know sometimes when people say, "Oh, I don't like this artist." Sometimes like the what's that artist name that sings Gunna, right? Everybody loves him right now. I didn't know who the hell or why the hell or what the hell Pushin' P was. Now that's a niche thing. But there's a group of people who love that. The Shade Room. I thought everyone in the world goes to the Shade Room. I really thought that. I really, really did. But there is a page out there in the middle of Africa that garners more views than the Shade Room. And they can literally shut down stuff. So I will say this, everything is a niche, but people are making money. People have numbers coming in. It's just a choice from these companies on who they want to give the money to. Black artistry, black media professionals, black people in these spaces will always be the bottom of the barrel. Period. It's just what it is.
So Rebecca, hold on, let me real quick. I agree with you about us being at the bottom of the barrel on a lot of things, but when it comes to, and I may be like way off base here, but when it comes to getting paid off of your streams on these streaming platforms, that's not something that number is not different if I put something up there or if Jay-Z put something up there. The value of each stream is set in stone. So you get that paid. What you might be referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is other opportunities in the platform. Like Joe Rogan got $100 million to have his podcast exclusively there. That's a little different than getting paid from a music stream. So
I'll say, so I hear what you're saying, but that was NDRE's argument. I'm in this space not knowing that these people who are holding these podcasts and these styles of or how they tell their stories or whatever the case may be in racist value are getting paid $100 million, while you have signed me up on Spotify, which is a platform that I and my colleagues who are in music have built are getting pennies to $1. She's saying rewrite the shit. She's saying like this is not something that is okay. So many people who are like me, even podcast people of color on that space are not getting paid that much. But a man whose rhetoric is terrible, Spotify is literally a music platform that added on the podcast style, that did all of that, that came secondary. But because music was their first love, music was something that they built their platform on, they're giving those people pennies to $1. And these other people whose podcast style, the rhetoric, everything it stands for is terrible and should be against the rules of Spotify. It's not. It's not. Yeah. So that's what she's putting out there, and she's saying, it sucks that we aren't getting paid enough, and we're the ones that built this platform. Yet people who are coming out of nowhere with these type of podcasts literally are getting dropped a check just like that and saying, "Okay, here you go."
I get that, but you kind of have to think about it from the realm of these music artists, what they're getting paid. If enough of them stood up and said, we're going to take our music off of these platforms until you pay us more for our streams, because there are other platforms you can go to and get paid more per stream than Spotify. I think Spotify is like at the bottom.
But that's
so
what
if
India's
more of them
saying.
stood up and did that, the reason these kind of podcasts can get these bags from them is you're bringing in, but I hate to say it, but Joe Rogan before Spotify was huge, hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. So to bring that in, to bring that audience in, I can bring his 100, 200 million followers, and I can hit them in the head with ads and keep them on my platform longer to give them other stuff.
And
so
that's
I'm gonna pay for that exclusivity. So
but that's the point. That's her point. She's saying that literally they'll pay for evil. They're paid for all that stuff. And I understand what you're saying, because he does have major numbers, but we know how it is. We literally just talked about that whack-ass podcast with those two black men or men of color talking about black women. That sells, but does it mean that it should? Like, those things sell. We literally talk about here Kevin Samuels. He's the biggest he's bigger than so many artists right now because we made him that that way. Do you think that the things that he's saying to women is okay? No, me personally, I don't think so. But this is what happens. We are okay with watching and pushing and pushing those things when the idea of this was Spotify was supposed to be a safe space for so many artists, and it's no longer that. They won't even pay people unless you're black, especially a black man, talking negatively about black women. If you are a white man talking negatively, saying the word ER, we will push you to where we need to push you. We'll take you to where we got to take you. We will put the eyes on you. We will make sure that we sponsor you every single way that we can. We will back you. That's the conversation. That is the conversation. And sometimes I know it's about money. We know how it is. It's a capitalistic world. We know that. We're sitting right here. We know that everything is about getting money, getting views. We don't care if the artist is trash. We know that if we have him singing ABC underneath a sample of the Isley Brothers, we know that we're gonna get some ears on it. We know that we're gonna make it happen, no matter how trash it is. We know that. And so it's like more so you see what kind of artist India Arie is. She's somebody who's more of a realist and who looks at it from that point of view. And it's kind of like, hey, I don't want to. I like we need to really be sure about what this platform is pushing. If it's pushing misinformation, the fact that the misinformation is getting so many views, so much ears on it, so many people are moving forward with this misinformation and utilizing it. It's problematic.
But you got to look at. Oh, go ahead, Dwayne.
No, go ahead. I
was going to say part of that misinformation. I know one thing that they're doing now, which is stupid as hell, is putting that warning label on certain podcasts that they have.
I've seen that.
But now you got to understand though as well too. These are the same people that already followed him, and that was probably already in this misinformation already. So they already bought Joe Rogan's followers from YouTube. Of course, they came over to Spotify to get those to boost his numbers up and get this $100 million contract. But yeah, 7 cents on the dollar is all artists get. Unless you're a big name artist and that you negotiated that contract.
Exactly. And I think that some of the conversations are getting conflated, but I think it boils down to, as far as like getting more out of Spotify and things, like it comes down to ownership, because when you own your stuff, you can negotiate on your behalf for higher rates. When a music label is owning your stuff, they don't really care too much, in my opinion, how much each stream is getting paid out for, because that's not where they're making their huge money. They're in bed with the streaming services. They're getting other side bags. So they're negotiating on behalf of all of their artists, and it's like, okay, we're gonna get so it kind of boils down to ownership and
just make sure people know though.
India is now an independent.
This is important note though, Rebecca, to what Dwayne was just saying. Those streaming royalties, I mean, the first step it goes by is the record label though, right? So that's they get a cut of the cut. So they're not even getting that whole percentage. So at the end of the day, the artists are the ones that are getting taken to the woodshed in this whole situation. And one other detail, listen, Rebecca, you said it. Just because it sells doesn't mean should it. I want us to really juxtapose the artistry. And I know India ain't the thing right now, right? But the artistry versus the Neanderthalism.
It's not Rebecca. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry. She's hot, but she's just but look at how. But I just want you to look. This man Joe Rogan could go on Spotify, get $100 million because he has all these people who like to listen to him. And what are they listening to him talk about? Besides the misinformation, I actually do want to know how many people have died. I want to know how many people have died as a result.
I didn't even know who Joe Rogan was until like literally the last year. I did not know. So like I said, everybody's niche.
Joe Rogan, I'm about to say, host the Fear Factor. Yeah.
I think he did Blind Date
everybody's
also.
niche. I remember, right? That's the only, with hair. Previously. So when I said, "Is this the same guy?" That man he's giving me skinhead now. That was actually my thought too when he started to make waves. I did not even know that he went into this change of whoever he was and whatever. It makes me uncomfortable. So, but when I finally figured out, that he had this whole line of people following him, that it makes sense. But I'm not one of those people. Like I said, in my world, India Arie is big now, and when it comes to numbers, we know what sells. I never knew those two podcasters never knew them, never ever heard of them, never seen them, nothing. Those 2 black podcasters that get off on talking terribly on women. Yes, never heard of them in my life until they went viral recently. So you see what I'm saying? There are worlds where these people are making numbers and getting numbers because people will follow them. And the fact that we retweet or we post about them or we have these conversations about them does garner them more views, even if somebody is only, and this is the world that we live in today. A view doesn't mean that you like the person, but even if you're only going to spectate, even if you're only going to see what this person really said, that's going to get them more money. That's where we stand today. But India.Arie is now an independent artist. Her latest album that went really well was something that she did on her own platform, because she went through the industry and the whole thing of it. Everybody is not, you made your fight, and especially being black in this industry, whatever industry it is, you might have to choose something that people are going to look at you like, damn, you kind of really flip-floppy right now. You kind of looking crazy. Like, if they were to offer this particular platform that we are on, a couple of $100,000, I'm gonna be like, y'all, listen, I got y'all, I promise. Just let me get the money and we gonna see about y'all. I promise you, because we need the money. There are people who will not take the money. There are people who won't. I just, BNC, the Black News Channel, which is cool, they're owned by white people. BET, now, white people. OWN network, right now, white people. So, and I love them people. And like I said, if they were to call me and be like, Rebecca, what's good? It's going to be what's good. We all out here trying to get a check. But it sucks that we got to do 6 jobs when all Joe Rogan has to say is something with the ER. Very heavy, very strong, very fun. Call us, relate us to monkeys, relate us to monkeys, and literally get a check for that.
Planet of the Apes.
100 million. 100 million. And he's not even good.
Yeah, I meant to tell you guys, before running my mouth before we got to this whole story, I meant to tell y'all that I got a heart out. It's supposed to be 10 o'clock. I have a meeting.
Imagine that.
Let me hold real quick. And look, Rebecca, you probably going to hate me. A lot of people might hate me for saying this.
Oh, Lord.
I'm about to say. But use this show, for example. If we were to go and build up 200 million followers, we could go anywhere to any platform and say, you going to pay us this or we not coming. So to the point of kind of Joe Rogan just saying X, Y, and Z.
Oh, I got to close with this.
So yes, he's bad, terrible, racist probably, but anytime you build something like that from the ground up, you kind of can go in a lot of rooms and just put your foot down.
I hear you, Dwayne. I can't let the show end on that note, but the thing is if we start talking bad about black women, we get those numbers. That's what she's talking about. It's what we talk about.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Because if you really go on YouTube and look, dude, you can really talk about anything. It's garnering your audience. You get more black people when you go on talking about black women. You got kids out here reviewing toys with billions of views. So I'm not gonna say it's just black women. I can't let that go because I look on YouTube.
It's James. No, James. I've been in this space. I've been in this space for 10 years. Hang on.
Not just black.
I've been in this space long enough to tell you.
Men, there's a niche for black men talking about black women. You know who goes to that?
What's his name?
So many other people will go to that, but they won't go watch that Emmett Till story over there on the network. They won't go watch that. I gotta go. I love you so much.
Ask Tariq Nasheed about that. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Are we ending completely?
Wait a goddamn minute. Everybody just leave.
Well, I'm here, but Rebecca ended. I don't know what to do.
Ben, stay your ass here. Just drop Rebecca.
I'll be here. Let's go.
Damn song kid. All right, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned.
And when I come home at night,
David already know.
Everything is covered.